Wes and Jackson. I think we can give a clap. We're very happy to have you here. I will not say much. I think a lot has been said. This is the third day of the opening seminar of the RLC campus. Yet, just a few words for those who weren't here on Monday, maybe. Wes founded the Land Institute in Kansas, United States in 1976, so 35 years ago, a long time ago, and since then fought and worked towards developing a natural systems agriculture, organic agriculture. In 2000, the year 2000, he then was awarded the RLC Right Livelihood Award, so the alternative Nobelprize. And as said, we are very happy to have you here. Today you will speak about the history of organic agriculture in the United States, or the necessities and possibilities of an alternative system of agriculture.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. Thank you. My subject is twofold, and it'll take a while for that to be explained. But I'm going to begin by showing you a photograph. And so if those in the back would stand up, at the very back row would stand up, so that you get the full effect of this. You'll be able to sit down again in a moment. All right? Because your lives are about to be transformed. You'll never be the same. Maybe we can hold that up, Joan, just a bit. Now you can sit down. But the plant on the bottom is the very species that started civilization. It is our modern day wheat plant. And that is the beginning of global warming. And that is the beginning of the idea that nature's to be subdued or ignored, because it's an annual plant that requires that you destroy the natural ecosystem that's there in order to plant seeds that'll germinate. So essentially all of our grain crops are annuals, and responsible for 70% of our calories, using 70% of our agricultural acres. So the first environmental problem was agriculture. And because associated with that is soil erosion, the materials that we're made of. So we think it's now possible to solve the 10,000-year-old problem of agriculture. But in order to do that, we need to build agricultural ecosystems like nature's ecosystems, all of which feature perennials, that is, plants that just keep coming up without having to plant the seed every year, but perennials in mixtures. So the story is twofold. The perennials, and this is the first perennial grain in the history of Homo sapien. Now, on this side is in some respects, the more profound reality. This is the hierarchy of structure. Atoms, then molecules, then cells, then tissues, organs, organisms, ecosystems, and finally the ecosphere. Since 1600, what agriculture has been about is, I'll wait till these tardy students. They shall all be given detentions. What agriculture said, what the what science has been about since 1600 is to look downward in the hierarchy of structure to solve problems. So, Francis Bacon, René Descartes, 1600 said, if you want to solve a problem, break it down to the point where there's no ambiguity. So now the way that the industrial mind is solving the soil erosion problem is with two molecules. A gene for resistance to an herbicide called Roundup, which is in the DNA, and the chemical Roundup. The two-molecule approach. We're saying that now that we have perennials, we can move upward to the ecosystem as a way to inform our research agenda. So we'll let this back on the ground. This, I said, was the beginning of global warming. Because with the plow, which cuts right there, that is the organic matter that then goes to the atmosphere. I don't know if you're ready for this. The plow has destroyed more options for future generations than the sword. So the plow, which is at the United Nations, where there is a man bent full of purpose, beating a sword into a plowshare. And it's also in the Hebrew Bible. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Agriculture is the fundamental destroyer of the planet. But we got to have it to eat. And it is the great paradox for Homo sapiens. But Francis, the philosopher Whitehead said that the essence of dramatic tragedy lies not in unhappiness, but in the remorseless, inevitable working of things. It is, however, through people that it's experienced as unhappiness. So that plant was the first plant at the eastern end of the Mediterranean. 10,000 years ago, the ice has been retreating. It's drying out. And over in the Zagros Mountains of western Iran was this plant. Then came rice, and later corn, or Zea maize. Number 4 crop is potato, and then it's grains again. Humans are primarily grass seed eaters and secondarily legume seed eaters. And now in our time, the acceleration of soil erosion, because we move into marginal land, in my view, is a problem exacerbated by climate change because the annual crops won't be able to hack it over vast acreages. What we know is that during dry years, the perennials, better managers of nutrients and water. So that's just to get us started. This is the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Report. This is in China, where they moved increasingly into marginal land. This, and by the way, they are planting in some of those strips the upland rice. Here is Indonesia. After 2 years of growing the upland rice, this is what you have. They've destroyed, what we're doing is destroying the vegetation, mostly the trees and shrubs, to increase the acreage. So we come back to this statement by the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Report. This is in central United States, in the state of Illinois. A not uncommon scene after a rain. The United States Midwest is the land of the thunderstorm. And part of the problem in the United States is we settled with Europeans. And we came with vision of former places, but not with sight. And so we have been destroying the ecological capital standing behind the food supply. There are seats over here for all of you that will get detentions and have to stay in after school in order to make up for all of this. There are 2 chairs down here.